Good evening, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about how to improve your listening comprehension in the target language that you are studying. Now, I should point out in advance, I'm not talking to people who don't know any of the language yet. There's no point trying to improve your listening comprehension if you don't know the phonology, the basic grammar and sentence structure, and basic vocabulary of the language. Really, I'm talking to people who are already studying the language, already know some of the basics, but their listening comprehension is not up to speed with their other skills and other awareness of the language. Alright, so the most important thing is to listen every day. Consistency is king. You want to practice listening every day. Make sure you are practicing listening just as much as you are practicing reading or practicing speaking or learning grammar and vocabulary. Spend just as much time on the listening because obviously that's of key importance when you want to communicate with people. So these days it's very easy to do every day. Even if you live in the middle of nowhere, if you have an internet connection, you have no excuse to not practice the listening. When I studied Hebrew language back in like 1997, in those days the internet was just getting off the ground. There were very few resources. You guys today are very lucky. Make use of them. You have YouTube videos. All languages have videos available on YouTube. I'm sure you can find something good there. As well, you can find streaming radio stations, streaming news networks, streaming television stations. You can find downloadable videos on demand, full movies in your target language. You can find everything. So make sure you get some of that. No excuses. Do it every day. Okay, one piece of advice I will give you is to use videos and to use videos that have subtitles. So if you get a DVD, sometimes you can set the subtitles on so you can watch with the subtitles and then maybe remove them. But also on the internet you can find videos that have been, they've had subtitles added to them as a way to help second language learners. Like I found a website for French that had all sorts of movies with subtitles added to them. French movies, but somebody added the subtitles as a way to help second language learners, French learners. So there are materials out there like that with subtitles, and those are very useful for helping you make a connection between the visual and the auditory. Some people are more visual learners. They need to understand the language visually and conceptualize it visually. And if you're just listening, sometimes you won't be able to perceive the sounds until you make that connection with the written word. So the subtitles help you do that, to make that connection between the sound and the visual. And I recommend that you listen with the subtitles first, but then you can remove them. If it's a DVD and you can remove the subtitles with a setting, then do that. But if the subtitles are they're already edited into the video and you can't remove them, then you can try just closing your eyes or covering your eyes. You could do that, I'm sure. After you are already familiar with the content of the video and you know what it's about, you know the topic and stuff from reading it, then you can switch off the subtitles. Just try to rely on your hearing the second time around, and you are getting rid of that visual crutch after you've already made the connection between auditory and visual. Okay, so watch once with subtitles, once without. Train yourself like that to just listen. I should say though, beware of captions on YouTube or any automatically generated captions. They usually suck. Sometimes they're hilarious, so if you want a good laugh, you can watch them and figure out what they're saying. Usually it's way off, so just be careful. The captions are not usually accurate. Okay, I recommend that you practice listening to a variety of different levels. So some materials out there are made for second language learners, so they are graded. They use graded language that's aimed at, for example, beginners or intermediate level or upper intermediate. The language is tailored for learners, so it's simpler and it's easier for you to grasp and understand. So I recommend you use that sometimes because that helps you consolidate the things that you are learning in your textbook, the things that you are studying, or the things you learn in class from your teacher. If you use a simple video, simple audio too, that will help you review and consolidate things you're already learning. And it's encouraging because it's not too far above your level, not too far out of your comfort zone, so you will be able to understand a lot of it, and that will be encouraging for you. You'll feel that you're improving and you're using the language for something functional, so you'll feel good and encouraged. But at the same time, I recommend that you use more difficult materials that are aimed at native speakers. So listen to the radio, listen to the news, watch TV shows, that kind of thing, and just experience the sound of the language. I recommend that you have no expectations of understanding. You just relax, you don't put any pressure on yourself to have good comprehension. You just want to just hear the sounds of the language and notice the things that you recognize. Even if you don't understand what's being said, just think, I remember that word, I've heard that before. And notice the patterns of intonation. Notice where, if you notice where one word starts and then ends, or you notice where the next word begins, that's all fine. Just notice that. Don't worry about trying to understand. You just want to internalize those patterns subconsciously. So then once your study gets to that level, you will be very well prepared to understand it, because you've already internalized all of those auditory patterns. Okay, so I recommend you listen to simpler materials, also more challenging materials. Just listen and experience the sounds. That's it. And the last thing I'll recommend is to speak with native speakers. Maybe it sounds obvious to some of you, but a lot of people still just study in books, and they still just learn to read and write and make sentences out loud in the language without actually talking to native speakers. But these days with the internet, again, you have no excuse. You can go to italki.com and you can find a Skype teacher. Some of them are really cheap depending on the language you're speaking. You can sometimes get a lesson for like $5 per hour, or $10 per hour is more common. It's cheap and it's effective. You need to speak with native speakers in your target language, especially in an uncontrolled context. Like if it's just a very structured, scripted lesson where they do listen and repeat with you, or they have you just read sentences and that kind of thing, that's not as beneficial. You want to have some surprises. You want it to be uncontrolled so that you hear things you aren't expecting, and that kind of trains you to not panic when you hear things that you don't understand, to just relax and notice the things you do understand, to use all of the cues, all of the signals that help you understand, including intonation, including context, including body language, all that stuff. You just want to train yourself to notice the things that help you understand and ignore the stuff that doesn't. That's why it's good to practice in an uncontrolled context with native speakers, so that you are doing that with the native sounds of the language. All right, so those are my pieces of advice for how to improve listening comprehension. It's not rocket science. You just need to do it every day. There are tons of resources on the internet. You can use radio, you can use videos, you can watch YouTube, all that stuff. Get a teacher through italki or some service like that. Speak with people, and use subtitles when you watch videos. Subtitles, not all the time, but they're a good tool to help you connect the visual and the auditory. All right, hope that made sense. Hope that was helpful. Have a good night. Talk to you later.